Hi there, and welcome to the Creatives Get Real podcast. I am Roben-Marie Smith.
And I'm Sandi Keene, and these are real conversations about the creative life. Hey, Roben-Marie.
Hey, dear, how are you?
I'm doing good.
It's good to see you after so much time. It's
Thank
been
you.
Weeks and weeks and weeks.
I've been away.
I know.
I've been busy. You've been busy. We've both been doing big things.
Yeah, life. Yeah, we're actually in Sandi's studio, and we like doing our recordings when we can see each other.
It's nice. It's nice to feel the energy of each other and to just be together in the same room. I mean, the other way works, but this is definitely our favorite.
Yep, for sure. So what are we going to talk about today in our podcast?
Well, this is a topic that you and I both have been asked about, and it's something that we both know a lot about because we do it often.
Yes, we do.
There's a lot of categories that we can go to now.
Oh, boy.
But we're going to, I think, I might be ready to teach an online class.
Yeah, because we hear that. What do I need to know? What do I need to have in place? How do I know when I'm ready?
Right.
Yeah, those are all good questions. So we're going to talk about that today.
We are. Okay, so let's first talk about how do you know that you're ready to teach an online class?
Okay, so you're the mindset expert here, right? So
Yes.
I'll let you start with that one.
I think you're ready when you really, really want to. The scariest part, of course, is getting your face in front of a camera and feeling expert enough, feeling qualified to actually teach a course to someone. So once you've kind of gotten a little bit past that, I mean, it never completely goes away.
No, it does not.
I mean, I've taught many courses at this point, and still the first time that camera goes on, my mind goes blank and I think,
exactly.
Why am I doing this? But then you get past that.
You get into the flow and the excitement of sharing this idea.
Right.
And just doing it. And the more that you do, the easier it gets. It really does. It really does. But I think, having some confidence in not just I'm ready, but some of the other things we'll talk about will make the process better and will make it easier for you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this is really hard, is how do I know that I have a class-worthy idea?
Well, we both can give examples of that. I know in the early days, I think it was, hey, I've got this great idea. I'm going to teach it. And you'll hear different things. You'll hear you need to see if there's an interest for that course. And if there seems to be an interest, then, maybe you should consider teaching that. Then there's the other viewpoint of, I just really want to teach this because I love this idea and I want to share it. I mean, there's different ways of looking at it. I think for me, the success has been greater when it's been a course that was sort of asked for, basically. Yes. For instance, my salvage journal class, I posted and shared and was in this process of kind of a rejuvenation of creativity. And I was getting asked so many questions and people saying, well, teach that to us. And it was like, really? I wasn't going to do a class on this. And then I was like, okay, they're asking, why not? Right. And then it just developed from there. And then it had more success because it was something that my audience and those that were following me were asking for. And I know that you and Ray have the same experience with the pocket journal class.
Yeah. Yes. That was a class that we weren't thinking really of teaching. And people were begging. I mean, you do never say no to beg.
That's a good point.
Rule.
It's like, hello, it cannot be any easier or clearer if your audience is saying, we want to see more, show us more. Do you have a tutorial for that?
Yeah.
Do you have a class?
Yeah.
Show me how.
Are you teaching a class on that?
Those are all very positive signs that you need to consider. Now, again, it's not, if you're not ready, then we've mentioned this before on another episode, don't let that push you to do something you're not ready for.
Right.
But my goodness, if you're thinking about it and you're like, I think I'm ready and I love this and they're asking for it, then.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's hard because I'm always of two minds when it comes to classes. You want to put your ideas out on social media so that you can get, response from people and hear people say, I love that idea. I can't wait to take that class.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the reality of social media. And this is kind of the dark side.
Yep.
But it's real, and we have to talk about it, because if you're thinking of teaching classes, this is something that you have to think about. And that is, where is the line? Because if you share too much about what you're getting ready to do, someone will steal your idea, take it, run with it, and you're left going, what just happened?
Exactly. And that's when I was mentioning earlier, when we introduced that idea of, okay, if I do this, what if I give too much away? And it's like, it's sort of like, the first one out, you got all these different ideas out there, but then it's like, oh boy, somebody else came up with that idea and they got there first, know, and even if, it could be small bits or snippets of an idea. And then you say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do a class. I've done a lot of classes that I just came up with the idea and decided to do a class, and boom, there it is.
Right.
And I didn't really put the feelers out there to see, the other instances were just by happenstance that it was like, hey, do a class on this. So yeah, that's a very good point. A very good point. Mm-hmm.
So I think there's two ways to know that you're ready. One is, people have seen what you're doing and they're asking for a class.
Right.
Are you going to teach something about that? And then there is I'm so passionate about this that I have to teach it because I just have to share this, whatever it is.
Right.
So I think that's the two ways that classes come about, and that you're ready when one of those two things happens.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's power in both of those, really.
Absolutely.
Because if you're not really passionate about it, it doesn't matter how many people are asking you to teach it. If you don't, if hopefully you're creating something you're passionate about.
Right.
But then again, maybe you don't want to make it into a class because maybe it needs to be more. There needs to be more substance or more content or whatever. And maybe you're just like, I don't really want to do that. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've all had the experience of people saying, hey, I love this thing you're doing. Do you want to teach that as a class? And your answer is immediately, no.
Oh, yeah. Been there. Yeah.
I don't
want to teach that. No, that would be like, oh, no. That would be a big undertaking. Not teaching that one.
Not teaching it.
Exactly.
Okay, so, all right, I have an idea, and I think it's really good. I know I'm a coach, but if you can get someone else's viewpoint on something like this,
yes,
it's so good.
Yes, it is.
I think that you and I can talk about the experience a million times that you came to me and said, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I would say, no, you're not, because that's a great class.
Yes. And what she means by that, what Sandi means is I would come up with this tutorial idea or this free thing idea. And I would present that to her. And like she said, it'd be, no, that's a class. You're not giving that away.
Right.
It's like, well, really?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, really? You think this is a class?
And we talk for like 5 or 10 minutes, flesh it out.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh, yeah, I see it. That is a class. Like, yes, it is.
Yeah. So kind of running, maybe you have an art bestie that you can talk to and just kind of run the idea by them and say, hey, what do you think? And, maybe you've got a close circle of Instagram followers or people that that you can just reach out to and say, hey, I've got this idea, what do you think? And maybe get some feedback.
That's a great idea.
Yep.
Okay, so I've got this idea. I've gotten that far. I've got an outline and kind of figuring out what I want to do now. How do I make it?
Well, you do have to have some skills. You do.
Have some equipment.
Got to have some equipment, and you don't have to have the best of the best. But gosh, if we're going to talk about filming a class and doing that, there are some things that you need to at least have in place.
Right.
You do, or you should have at least a good camera, and you can film with your iPhone or smartphone. It's not going to be the easiest way to do it because of the limitations in storage, limitations in perhaps the length of time that you'll have to film, keeping it charged. There's some things there, and lighting is very important. I got to say, I'm kind of picky about this kind of thing because I teach this, this very concept of the technical part of things.
Right.
And so I'm a little bit more critical maybe, or just more observant when I'm looking at things to be like, okay, you've got to be able to film it where people can see what you're doing. Okay. I know that sounds like the obvious thing, but if your video or your camera is way away and I can't see what you're doing, or the lighting is so bad that it's at an angle where I'm not seeing anything, guys, that's not acceptable.
Right.
At all.
And this is something that when I first started teaching that I had to constantly remind myself is, you want to get close to what you're doing and you're filming the top of your head. It's like, oh yeah. It's like, oh yeah, I actually have to sit up, back off of my project some so that there's room for the camera.
Yeah. And there's a lot of little bits and pieces of things. But let's talk about one, you've got to have a way to film.
Yes.
So for me, primarily for all of my workshops, I use a DSLR camera. So I use that. I find for me, that's the easiest way to do it. It stays on my boom. And a camera boom, think of it as sort of, it's an arm. It's a pole, it has an arm on it. The camera is attached to it and it points down.
Right.
And it's out of the way. I have in the past used a tripod on the table where I was filming. Unfortunately, if you're using a sewing machine or you move or something jolts the table, your filming is going to be
you're shaking the camera.
Right? And that's no bueno.
Right.
So, so that, and for some things that are quick and small, I'll use my iPhone, but generally I'm using the DSLR. You do as well, right?
I do. Yeah, I do. I have a nice camera that I'm like you. I use it only for filming. I don't take photographs with it. I got an iPhone. Why do I
know the technology is so much better.
I know, so I don't need it. Yes, that's solely what I do with my camera, and that is an investment. Yes, like is $500 to $700 about what we're talking.
Exactly. Yes, okay. But it pays off in dividends when you do your first class, and then think of all the rest of the things that you'll be able to film,
right?
From that. But there is an investment, and if you're not ready or you can't make that investment, just make sure if you're using a smartphone that you can get good video from that. I also recommend, in addition to you can get certain things that you can use. To put over where you can have maybe your iPhone is on a stand or something, so you can do that. You don't have to invest in a big boom, but have a backup battery if you are using a DSLR. That's really important because you would be amazed at how fast your battery runs out.
Insanely fast.
And you want to make sure you always have one charging and one in the camera. So what about lighting? That's a challenge. And I've, over the years, have developed like the best system for my lighting.
Right.
But my space is different than yours too. So
yeah, you actually use more lighting. I don't have like photography lighting. I have lots of lamps and I have a big window.
Yep.
And so that's what I use. I use artificial and a combination of artificial and natural lighting. And these are lamps like you would find in a living room, not a photography lamp. Whereas you've gone the route of you've got the Big Daddy lighting.
Yeah. Well, it's because my space is relatively small and the window in my studio isn't directly to the outside. Like there's a long lanai that goes out. So there's a roof over that.
Right.
So the lighting, it's nice, but it's not enough. And it's very, and my ceilings are really high and it's not great. So I have box lighting. Those are the lights that you have on stands that just look big and square and the light kind of reflects on. And then I have a light that I have just around where my camera is. That's like a ring light. And that has really been the best combination that I found for my space to be able to work in. And the lighting is really good. And I don't have to do anything post-edit for lighting. It usually is pretty much, even at night, because sometimes I have to film at night. And so it works perfectly and I don't have to deal. Yeah. And then I use, I call them white light bulbs, but they're not super expensive, but they're like a photography bulb, but they're not the yellow light. They're the white light, the natural lights. And that's really important if you can get that lighting as well. So, so that's a couple of things. I would think other tech items, obviously you're going to probably need a way to edit your videos. There's a variety of different software. I use iMovie, pretty basic, but it's
what I use.
It's what Sandi uses too. I've been dabbling a little bit in a new software called Camtasia that does some pretty cool things, but you don't have to have fancy software. Just be able to edit.
Yeah.
And I know you and I both feel very strongly about the editing process. It's not always fun, but it's essential. I think that you have to be.
I love editing.
No, I do too. I do too. Did you just say that? Because
I did.
That's not the person I knew back when you started.
I do.
I like the editing too because it's techie and I love the tech.
Well,
but
I like it because you're taking, this chaos
Yes.
and you're making it so beautiful.
I know, isn't it awesome?
And you have all the control. I
Absolutely.
love that part of it.
Yeah.
It's very artsy.
Oh my gosh.
See, you approach it from a tech point. I'm going, this is so artsy.
But it is. You're creating something from what you've created, and
Right.
it's so much fun.
I agree.
Not everybody thinks that, but guys, editing is very important. You need, if you sneeze or the phone rings or
The
your
dog
dog,
barks.
yes, those need to be edited out.
Right.
If your tripod falls, you've got, this is and people are seeing this. This is you. You are presenting yourself. And if this is a course that someone's taking with you for the very first time, it's got to be the best thing you can give them.
Right.
And take the time to do the editing.
Right.
For sure. Take the time.
And if when you're first beginning, I think that, it might be worthwhile to hire someone to, if not edit, so let's say you want to edit, just to give it a look and say, look at this and give me comments and tell me if I've missed something.
Yes.
Because it's really easy to miss things because you've seen the same scene.
That's right.
3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times. And
Yes. That's right. And you're like,
Did you
not see that?
Yeah. Can you see that your cat just walked across your table?
Although sometimes that's kind of endearing, but yeah, I get you. Yes. And it's not, having someone look at it, especially if you can have someone who might take a class, like another creative, an artist.
Yes.
Because I know when I first started teaching, not just in person, but doing online courses, I would take a class. Back then there weren't many online, and I would think, what do I like about this?
Absolutely.
And what do I not like? As a student what you've liked about a class and what you haven't.
Yep.
And there's just so many things, and we're not going to get into all the nitty gritty about the editing and the filming and things, but just think about that when you're approaching your filming. And I do want to say this because this is advice I give to my students. Okay, did that really just happen? The doorbell just rang right after we talked about editing out these things. Okay, we're totally leaving that in, by the way.
That's what I'm like, we have to leave that. That is too funny.
Oh my gosh, it was Amazon, by the way. Okay, so I was going to a point of, what was I going to say? I have no idea. I don't remember now. See, that got me off track.
Okay, that's all right. We'll cut there.
Oh, I know what it was. One advice I really like to give is you're filming with editing in mind. And the more experience you get, the easier that will be and make more sense. Because when I first started, there were things I'd go, if I had done this when I was filming, that would have made editing easier. So that's a whole other podcast, but
granted,
but
you'll learn that as you go along.
Yeah,
and
you sure will.
You'll film differently.
Exactly.
Like when things like the doorbell rings, you know how to react.
You just pause and then you just keep on going. That's all you do.
Yes.
We talked about some equipment. Experience, I think, will come with time, but I do think you need to have some knowledge of the editing software that you're using. So there's so many sources online for being able to learn software and feel like, okay, I can do this, but you can also outsource it. I've offered that service where I've done videos for other creatives and artists. So, there's resources out there.
So you can hire any of this stuff. If you're at the beginning and you're like, I want to give this a shot and I'm not ready to invest in all this equipment and all of these things, then hire someone to come and film it for you and then edit it and get it ready for you.
Yeah.
You'll probably end up, you won't make as much money on the class by the time you take out those fees. But it's a really good way to give it a shot without investing in all this equipment.
That's right.
Not knowing.
Yeah, that's right. And the person that you hire or persons that you hire, they're the experts and they know what to do. And you're going to learn a lot.
You are.
From that experience. So, yes. Okay, so what about the delivery of the course? There's lots of options out there for that. You can do the course yourself and then you can offer it on your website or a hosted membership type of thing where you sign up and you have access to the course. If you do it that way, you'll probably be paying a fee for, the service. Or if you have your own website, you could offer it on, say, a password protected page.
Right.
There's also other options where you can perhaps be a part of an overall site, kind of like pop-up art classes, which is tell us a little bit about that.
That is where I host my classes, the classes that I teach with Ray Missigman, and one of the missions of that area of my website is that I actually want to help young artists, young as in new to art, not necessarily their age. But that first time, it's hard. It's hard when you have a new class and you don't have the following maybe yet to sell to. So that's one of the things that Pop-Up Art Classes really wants to do, is to be that platform for young artists.
Yeah. It can be kind of scary when you're thinking about all the components to doing an online course, and having you and Ray behind them kind of makes it a little bit easier and gets their feet wet a little bit, so they can say, okay, I'm ready.
It's a nice way to get started, and then then you're ready. You've had the experience, you've gone through it. And,
that's right.
We wave a fond goodbye to you, and you go off and
then you come to Makers Tech U, where I teach you all the tech,
absolutely,
all the filming and the editing and everything you need to learn from the perspective of someone who's done it many, many times over and understands the artist's perspective.
Right.
And that's really the mindset or the approach that I have with Makers Tech U. It's a membership site where I offer those tech trainings that oftentimes we struggle with as artists and creatives, because we don't really have that left brain thing going. And you could get on Google, but then you don't always know what you're looking for. And oftentimes it's not related to the artist anyway.
Exactly.
So,
and it's so easy to be overwhelmed. So having those answers in one place, that's so helpful. Okay, so you had mentioned, you can teach for organization, you can do it yourself.
That's right.
There are also those year-long kind of classes where you would join 25 other instructors.
And those are great. That's a great opportunity if you are starting out. I mean, we've in previous podcasts talked about, should I do this or not do this? But you get some good experience. You're part of a project where you have guidelines, and there's things that are required so that you kind of have a parameter or framework to work from. And, you're going to get exposure from that. There's going to be a lot of students in there. They were learning about new teachers, and I did those. I did multiples of those, and they were good experience. Plus, you make your money based on commission through affiliate links, so that you're able to actually generate your income. And some of them will even pay like a payout or something for you joining. But so there are opportunities. There's lots of opportunities out there.
You have a lot of options of how to go. So I think one of the most important things, if you are thinking about teaching a class online, is to make sure that you've had some experience teaching. So teach in person, even if that means just inviting friends over, getting that opportunity to have the experience of teaching. Learn how to do it. Learn how to do it as well as you can. And then move on to online classes. It's really hard to jump in.
Yes.
If you don't have teaching experience.
Yes, and that's so true. That's very true. Yeah. You might find that it's not really for you.
Yes.
There's great artists out there that aren't really great teachers.
Right. And there are also people that are good artists, but they are fantastic teachers. And they might not be the best, let's say, acrylic painter in the world, but the fact that they know how to impart their knowledge to you makes up for it in spades.
Yeah, that's me. I say what I lack in creative ability, I make up for in the teaching and the tech part.
Well, you do not have a lack of creativity, but there is truth to just because. Let's say you're looking at someone and saying that person is much better than I am at this thing. So what?
That's right.
So what? There is room for everybody. We've said this before in other podcasts. That's right. You don't be discouraged by looking at, there are 500 people teaching classes in watercolor or acrylic or whatever.
Well, let's think about the world population then, Less than 1% is all you need. I mean, even less than that probably.
That's true. I mean, you have a unique approach because you're you.
Exactly.
So there's room for you. Don't be discouraged by that.
No. Absolutely not. Great advice. And then I think too, if you've gotten to that point and you believe that you're ready, then I think it's doing a little bit of research on the costs. Think about what your financial investment would be depending on which options you go with for the tools and the equipment. Right. And also thinking about your delivery, because that's important. When I was doing mine, I had to do some research on different platforms and how did I want to do it? What did I want my user experience to be like?
Right.
And that was important in the decision I made as to how I was going to do it. So those are all little things that, we'll have all of this will be in the show notes. So you'll be able to kind of reference that. But yeah, we love teaching online. We love doing art classes.
I do.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things I do. I don't enjoy it when I first get in front of the camera because you're just also awkward and weird.
Yeah.
But then that goes away and I do. I just imagine when I teach, I'm sure you do the same thing, where you're teaching to one person and you're imagining them sitting there.
Yep.
And
that makes it more natural and it just makes it easier for you when you just feel like, they're just sitting here with me.
Yeah, and I'm just going to show them what I do.
Yeah, and I've had friends over that will come into the studio and we'll just kind of hang out and I'll show them how to do something. Whatever. And I go, this is just like your classes where I just feel like I'm sitting here with you. That's great. And that's kind of how you want that experience to be for your students.
Absolutely.
So good talk.
Yeah.
I like this topic.
I do too.
Yeah, I mean, we could flesh a lot of this out into even more, but this is just, kind of an overview of some key things that you would want to think about if you are contemplating doing online courses.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Creatives Get Real.
We love hearing from you. So hop on over to Instagram and leave us a comment. And we also appreciate reviews on iTunes.
And you can find me, Sandi Keene, at sandykeene.com and my classes at popupartclasses.com.
And you can find me, Roben-Marie Smith, at robenmarie.com. And if you're looking for and need tech support, check out my membership site, makerstechu.com.